Starring Bila Day in...
But, Ma, that's my favorite movie. Oh, well, all right. But don't you spend too much time in front of that TV, do you hear me? Yes, Ma.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? I hope your day is treating you well. Welcome back to another episode of my podcast. But Ma, that's my favorite movie, and I am your host, Bila Day, and today I actually have a returning co-host today, which is my mother.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing?
Yes, I definitely appreciate her coming back for another episode because she was actually on episode 3, but Ma, that's my favorite Black movie, and we had a lot of fun with that episode. So this time around, I have an actual little studio set up. So, kind of moving on up a little bit. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. All right. So, before we go any further into this episode, I definitely want to welcome my listeners. If you are a returning listener, thank you so much for coming back. If you're a real one, period. If you're a new listener, well then welcome, and you are in for a treat that I definitely hope will keep you coming back for more. All right, so this episode is titled But Ma, That's My Favorite Biopic.
Yes.
Okay, so biopic, what is that, right? Our movie focuses will be about a life of a person who is well known for their singing career. So both movies we'll be doing today will be about singers. Now, I felt like my mom would be super perfect for this episode because I definitely grew up watching bio pictures because you absolutely love them.
Yes, I really did. When y'all were growing up, and plus when I was growing up, I watched like biopics and everything. I mean, I really enjoyed them. I love finding out about different celebrities and, the trials and tribulations that they went through. I like stuff like that.
It's always really interesting to see people come from humble beginnings.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
Is good. That's why I like to find out about each of the different celebrities, because you'd be amazed on the things that you could find out about different celebrities. I like it.
And what they had to go through in order to get where they were.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay. So one thing I do want to start off before we get into these movies, though, is if you could have a biopic made about any person, like sports or, someone in like their creative field, singer, what story would you like made about somebody?
I don't know. That's kind of tricky.
Because there's already been so many done.
Yes, there's been so many done, and I've seen so many of them. So right now I can't think of any like right off the top of my head. But we got that
Aretha Franklin coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah. So if I had to choose a biopic that I would like to see made, there's this actress. Her name is Freddie Washington, and she was in the 1930s version of Imitation of Life. And what I thought was so interesting about her story is she is a light-skinned woman. She had, how would you describe the hair? She had
the good hair.
Yeah, but I hate saying that because I feel like all hair can be good,
Fine hair.
Yes, there you go. Fine hair. Okay, so she had fine hair. She had green eyes, but she never claimed to be biracial. She was always living in her blackness. She was proud of her blackness. And I think it would be very interesting to see a story about her because she dealt with being black because, she claimed her blackness. So she couldn't play in romantic leads with white men. But she was also too fair-skinned to play the mammy roles because, of course, back then, the stereotypical mammy had to be dark-skinned, a more full-figured woman.
Yeah, that was typical. That's how they always portrayed the black maids or,
yes. And so if I could cast anybody to play her, the person I have in mind is Lenora Critchlow, and she was in the second season and second episode of Black Mirror. And if you look up this actress and then look up Freddie Washington, and her name is spelled Fredi, so it's not the typical spelling of Freddie. Her real name is Frederica, but she shortened it and went by Freddie. But if you look up those two, you will see what I'm talking about. And hopefully no one steals my idea. But I think that would be a perfect, like that would be an interesting movie to make. Just seeing how someone had to maneuver and try to, get around white Hollywood. Because she was passionate about it. She wanted to do it. But at the same time, she had to, she wasn't able to like fully show her potential because of that hindrance. All right, so that is it for that, and let's go ahead and get into these movies here. So the first movie that we have here, we're going to go ahead and get into that. Lights, camera,
action.
Besides, the stars belong to the sky, right? This quote is by the actor who played Buddy Holly. And the movie we're going to be talking about today is La Bamba.
La Bamba.
All right, so this movie was released July 24th, 1987. The director and writer is Luis Valdez, and he was the voice in Coco. And this biopicture that we're going to be talking about is about singer, songwriter, and guitarist Richie Venezuela, who basically pioneered the Spanish-speaking rock and roll movement. So he was speaking, I think he was doing like some Spanglish. Was he doing some Spanglish, like speaking Spanish and English, or was he just doing, I think he was just doing Spanish maybe.
I think, yeah.
Maybe he was doing full Spanish songs, but it was in rock and roll.
Yeah, and they wanted to do yeah, they sure did, because I think they wanted to do
it. Was that rock and roll sound to Spanish music. All right, so the beginning of this movie, it starts off where we see kids playing on a playground. And we see a plane on one side in the distance, and then we see another plane on the other side, and they end up colliding. And this is basically foreshadowing for what is to happen later. Okay, so Richie's family had extremely humble beginnings. And we have Richie's mom, whose name was Connie, played by Rosanna DeSoto. We have Richie, played by Lou Diamond Phillips. We have his girlfriend, Rosie, who is played by Elizabeth Pena. And they're all working on this community farm where there is other families that are working as well. And they don't have any actual houses. Everyone lives in tents. They sleep on cots. And all of a sudden, we see Richie's brother, named Bob, who's played by Issa Morales, who comes back into town. So we get this vibe that he's been gone for a while and he's just now coming back. And then as soon as he comes back, he's pretty much on the fact that he wants to get his family out of this area. He wants them to be in a better situation. And he actually shows his mom, Connie, all of this cash that he's earned while he's been gone. And at first she's hesitant to take the money. And so then we start to see that Bob and Rosie actually have like this awkward greeting, because when Bob first comes into town, we see that it just, I don't know, it gives off just like weird vibes that they may like each other, but she's supposed to be Richie's girlfriend.
I think Bob really pushed that. But at the time when he came, he didn't realize that, Richie was liking her.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really weird. So what ends up happening is the mom does eventually go with, what Bob wants to do, since he has the money to, get them out of there. So they end up leaving and they end up being in a house. They end up being closer to the city. And at this point, we have Bob and Rosie. They're together and Richie is in high school, which it kind of makes sense because he's a kid anyway, so he doesn't need to be in like any serious relationship.
And at the end of the day, she wants the best for her kids, but when Bob comes, it's like, okay, he comes and kind of saves the day for a while.
Yeah, he does. He does. So Richie actually gets invited to audition for this band. that one of his friends is in at the school that he's at. And so when he auditions for the band, it goes really well. Not only can he play guitar, because that's what they needed was a guitarist, but he's also a good singer as well. So he impresses the band. They ask him to be a part of it.
Hello everyone, this is Bila Day. Sorry to interrupt this episode, but I just wanted to let you know that you were only listening to a preview. So if you would like to listen to the rest of this episode, then you can definitely go to the website, butmathat'smyfavoritemovie.com, or you can go directly to any of these platforms for the full episode. We are available on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Castbox. Please don't hesitate to follow the podcast on any of those platforms so that you can be notified anytime a new episode is available. If you didn't know, our primary release day is every Thursday, but be on the lookout for bonus content as well. Now, if you've listened to the But Ma, That's My Favorite Movie podcast before, that's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. So if you have a friend that loves movies like we do, then definitely go ahead and share this podcast with them. And if you're a new listener and you do end up enjoying the podcast, well, then you go ahead and share with a friend too. Also, don't forget to like any of our social media pages so that you can also get updates and regular information about the podcast and about any of the episodes that are coming up. The social media sites that we have a presence on are Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And also, if you want to leave a review, whether constructive or positive, we'd appreciate that too. All right, go ahead and get over to one of the other platforms so we can finish getting into the rest of these movies.